so my camera has decided to be and I filmed the start of this video with that, but instead we're going to film it on my iPhone. So because I want to film this and we're going to do it and we're just going to go. So here I am. I'm at my bookcase, which is like my unread books bookcase now, because I now have a second section over the other side of my apartment, which has my read books in it because I wanted to keep them separate. So today I have read a chapter or so of the books that were the least excitable books that I had least anticipated in my bookcase. And I read a chapter of them because that worked really well for my Christmas Advent book series, and I got a really clear idea if I liked books or not by doing that. So I did that for my least excited books. I keep thinking my least anticipated books, excuse me. And I did that with these so that I could get an idea of if I wanted to read them or not. So let's go through them. I'm going to go through the ones I'm excited for first, and then the ones I'm DNFing. So the first book is Dead Broke in Jarriet Creek, and that is by Terry Shames. So that book is about a town, Jarriet Creek, which is dead broke, and there is a murder to solve at that town. So the reasons I liked it, it was immediately interesting, like right away. I wasn't sure because it's like, you know, small town mystery. It flowed super well and the characters were all really likable. Those were my main reasons for liking it. So I am going to keep reading that and I'm very excited for it. So the next book on the list is Tomorrow When the World War Began by John Marsden. Basically, teenagers go on a camping trip. When they get back, they find out that there has been some sort of like huge war situation happen in their hometown, and basically everybody is missing and they've got to try and figure out what the heck happened and what are they going to do now. Reasons I liked this book: it was easy and had a narrator voice. It was somewhat frustrating because she's very, very easily distracted, and that was very frustrating, but I can look past it. It was easy to get through. I felt meh about this book. I am going to keep reading it, but I did feel like, it was all right. There is a slow start to this war part of things. Like, you're really looking at them going camping, which is kind of like annoying because she's telling it from like a after everything that's happened perspective, and so we know it's already all happened, but she's going really slowly. That was also kind of frustrating. It led to my meh appeal for it, but I am going to keep reading it because the idea behind it is really interesting. All right, Impossible by Sarah Lotz. I've read a Sarah Lotz book before and hated it, but here we go. I so far loved it, by the way. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, this is in my pile of I've liked it so far books. So basically it's about Nick, a failed writer, husband, a dog owner, and Beck, a serial dater, dressmaker, and Pringles enthusiast. They basically meet over an accidental email, and they start a relationship between the two of them. Reasons for liking it: I loved the email section. Okay, so this is one of those books where there's like a little bit different than the norm type of writing style. I love that. Like Daisy Jones and the Six is supposedly interview style. I haven't read that book yet. The appeal is like a whole bunch of documents and a whole bunch of like evidence that make you understand sort of what's going on. I love that. I love that different element. There was a lot of emails exchanged, particularly like that first chapter was just all emails, which is the beginning of their relationship. So I actually really like that. It was very witty. I kept reading without even thinking about it because it was amazing. And I was interested to see where the story goes. It was so easy to read. It was such a surprise enjoyment for me, even just the first few chapters, because of the last book that I read of hers, I just did not like at all. But I have a feeling that the relationship is not going to be one that I'm going to like the ending of or some of the progression in here. So, but we'll see how we go because I'm excited to read it. It is actually quite enjoyable so far. Let's keep going. I want to get through these way faster than I am. So, Broken by Travis Thrasher was the next one I read. Essentially, a woman who has killed a guy, has tried to start over in a new place, start over in a new life, but she's being haunted by the memories of this, and she thinks that there are people chasing her and out to get her. Travis Thrasher tends to write quite dark thrillers / horror, supernatural stuff, so I've been hesitant to read this book. However, I really enjoyed the first chapter. So reasons why I liked it: it was suspenseful and intense in a good way. I wanted to know more, and it had a beautiful writing style. Like, I'm just like, it's just really poetic type of a style. I know somebody who really doesn't like to read, and she loves reading Travis Thrasher because it is really easy to read and really beautifully written. So there you go. That was Broken. That's also a signed copy of that book, which is fun. All right. Girl Online on Tour by Zoe Sugg. Oh my gosh, all the words forever. Basically a teenage girl has a boyfriend who's a rock star on the road, and I think she goes on the road with him, but she also had a blog. This is book 2. I found it at one of those random swap libraries, and I thought it would be interesting to read. I didn't realize it was a book 2, but it doesn't matter. I will say it is definitely a teenage girl book, so, you know, hanging on because, like, nostalgia. But interesting premise is why I like it. It was really an easy writing style to get through, and the blog elements in this are really cool. So like with the Impossible book, which had emails, this has sort of some blog elements to it, and I really like that as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit long, I don't know, for a teenage romance book, I don't know, but we'll see how we go. The last one I'm actually excited to read on my list is Noah's Law, and this is by Randa Abdel Fattah. Sorry for the pronunciation of your name. We do our best. Basically, it is about Noah. He's a bit of a ratbag in school. He's a teenager. Again, with this, like, teenage books, but anyway, doesn't matter. He's a bit of a ratbag in school, gets in trouble, and his dad sends him to work at his aunt's law firm over the school break, and he gets involved in a woman who gets mugged and is killed, and he is really interested to find out what's going to happen with that. Reasons I liked it: it was funny, the characters were really likable, and I loved the idea. It sounded really cool, so I am going to read it. I feel like, though, that Noah's Law and Zoe, Girl on Tour by Zoe, are probably going to be books that I end up reading and then giving away, because I don't know if that's something worth keeping, but we'll see how we go. Alrighty, and so now we get to the books that had a reason to be on my least anticipated list, because they didn't jive with me, although nobody says that anymore. Maybe that's why. But these are the ones that I didn't particularly enjoy, and here is why. This is Now by Sierra Gerharty. Yes, that's the one. So 5 strangers, I believe, involved in a bank robbery, and you basically get to see them in the aftermath. They all have their own problems in their own lives, and you see them in the aftermath of this bank robbery. Sounded like such a fun idea. I love those episodes of, like, crime shows where that's what happens, like the main characters get caught up in a bank robbery. I love those episodes, so I thought maybe this one. No. There was a lot of cursing, so much cursing, like I just couldn't get past it. It was annoying, and there was too much violence, and it was uninteresting all at the same time. It was too uninteresting and too much violence all at once. Like, I don't know how they can, like, how did you do that? Like, how can it be violent and uninteresting all at the same time? I don't know. So basically that first scene is exactly, you pick up right at the moment where the bank heist happens. And it is just, yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. I was not feeling it at all. And to be honest, I'm not interested to know what happens to the characters and where they end up. Okay, so this wasn't at least anticipated, but it does end up on my list of things that are getting, I was going to say thrown away, getting given away, and that is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It surprised me, well, it doesn't surprise me, but it does, why I'm getting rid of this book, and I'm really sad because I also have The Final Gambit, and I bought that without having read, I literally bought all of it without having read any of it, and then I did read The Inheritance Games. I did like it, but there's something about these books that I think is dangerous, and I just don't connect with these books. There's something about them that is just not good for me. And so instead of reading it, I've decided to get rid of it. So the reasons aren't because it's not a good book. It's not because it's not exciting or amazingly written, whatever. It's just purely because personally for me, I just can't read this. And I did try, and that's why I'm including it in this. I read a couple of chapters and I did try to read it, but I just couldn't get through it anymore. So this one and Final Gambit are being on hold. The next book on the list is The Lost Ark of the Covenant by Tudor Parfitt. Excuse me if I'm saying that wrong. Basically, this book still has the sticker from, like, anyway. So basically, this book is, there has been a 20-year quest to find the Ark of the Covenant, which is from Jewish and Christian histories in the Bible and Torah. Anyway, and so basically it is this quest to find the lost Ark of the Covenant, and they do find it, but there's like the thing. Revelation of what he finds will rewrite history or whatever. So, I mean, I feel like going into this, you think, oh, is it like potentially like Indiana Jones-ish? It's not. Reasons why I didn't like it. Okay, so it could have been really interesting, but it just didn't connect for me. There was a lot of huge focus on like Jewish history and stuff like that. That's fine, because obviously that's what the Ark of the Covenant is connected to. But for me, it just didn't connect, and it didn't land. It didn't feel accessible for everybody. It felt like something that really only people who are highly Jewish, Orthodox, like current practicing Jews would really connect to. And I know that's not true, because obviously people will be able to connect to it of any kind of walk or faith or whatever, but for me it just didn't land. And I love looking into Jewish history and culture and customs and things like that, because you know, I'm a Christian and I love the Bible, and that's part of it. So yeah, for it not to land was really disappointing. The story at the start was really just uninteresting and seemed unrelatable. Like, I don't know why it started the way it did. I would have preferred to get right into the action. I could have ended up skim reading this book, but I just couldn't be bothered. And it was just not, it's historical Jewish sort of Israeli customs and history, which is interesting, but I wasn't sure if it would be interesting enough for me to keep going, which was disappointing. Like I said, I would have loved to have read this, but I just wasn't feeling connected. I wasn't interested enough to keep going. There are only 2 left. Okay, here we go. So the next one on the list is Godspeed, and that is by Nicholas Butler. So there's 3 guys who are friends and have a construction company. They get hired for a really big job, but something seems like it's, you know, going on behind the scenes that they've not been told about and they don't know. Reasons why I didn't enjoy this book in my first few chapters of reading was it was dull and lifeless. It was just super boring and uninteresting. And our heroes or whatever, like the people in the main characters and what have you, major hick vibes, but not in a good way. Like, I love a good country story and like, that's fantastic. But these are like country bumpkin hick feels, and I just was not connecting with that. And then when they see the woman who's going to hire them, they're like, all they can comment on is the fact that she's really pretty. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? So no, I didn't enjoy it. It was really boring and I just was not feeling it. I feel like it's a really slow book. And the last book, oh my gosh, we're on the last one, is called The Hidden, and it is by Mary Chamberlain. This is about a story of a woman in the 80s who finds out that a woman from the World War II, is trying to find somebody who she'd found about in a letter or heard about in a letter, and she's trying to find a family member from the, I think from the concentration camps. So historical fiction. I was really unsure going into this. I was a little bit, I was positive. I was excited for, you know, potentially where this could go. It didn't go where I wanted it to, where I thought it would. It was, I think, when I found out about this book, I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then I looked into it a bit more and I was like, maybe not. So reasons I didn't like it, it was very highly war focused, and I'm not a huge war person. I don't really enjoy the war historical fictions. It was tragic and really difficult to get through already. Like just in general, talking about World War II and the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff is really difficult to read and talk about and think about, because it's just horrifying. And so this is just sort of something that for me, I'm like, if a book is going to be written about that time period and it's incredible and amazing and worth reading, absolutely. But this was not for me. It was highly, highly, highly historical fiction, and I'm not a huge historical fiction gal. So for me, it was really difficult to get through even just that first chapter. So yeah. Alrighty. Those are, oh my gosh. So those are the books that I got, that I looked at and read the first chapter of. I am happy to make room on my bookcase and also to be excited for a couple of books to be coming up to read. So we're going to do that, and we're going to read those, you know, eventually. Over here, like, look at this beautiful part. We're going to read them eventually, and we'll find out if they are actually worth all of that hype. I probably will end up doing a blog post which talks about these books in more detail. I might link it below if I've already written it by the time this comes out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the adventures. Bye!